We tried to play music. We're going to try to get whoever who's in charge of doing our sound for the games in the stadium for our scrimmage on Saturday, so they will be able to show our players exactly what crowd noise means and who controls it and what they're going to do with it, because obviously it's all different. The coaches were wearing masks the entire time. The officials were wearing masks. The officials have a handheld whistle that's really unique because they don't want to be putting it in their mouth and pulling it back out. I don't know whether the official will be able to take his mask off to announce the penalty or if he'll just do it through his mask. I would think he'll probably keep his mask on. When our guys were coming to the sideline, we took all the benches off the sideline and we put chairs. The defense had theirs in a semicircle because Jay Bateman thought he could see the faces of the players better, and they're still social distancing. The offense wanted them just in a line all the way across. But we just did it the way that the coaches wanted to do it. When each player came off of the field, he had his fluids, whether it was Gatorade or water, in his seat waiting on him. And also they were all required to wear a mask. So there's either a mask sitting in their chair or now we've even found some that are they're just masks that you can throw away, but you hand it to the player. He sticks it on his face while he's on the sideline. He strips it off and throws it away as he gets ready to go back. So it was different. It was unique, but at the same time, it's still football. And when you get out on the field, it's the same stuff that we're used to. Special teams was inconsistent, which is usually expected for a first scrimmage. So we've got to get better in that area. Offense was also inconsistent. There were some big plays, but there weren't a lot of consistent drives. And as you would expect in a first scrimmage, the defense was better and more consistent than the offense. It's funny, the offensive coaches say, well, they've been watching our plays, man, for 2 years. And I said, yeah, well, that's the same way everywhere. So don't change it. There's no game plan. And so there's some good plays, bad plays, but that's part of an opening scrimmage. So we'll practice tomorrow. We gave them off today. We'll practice tomorrow. We'll scrimmage again on Saturday. And that'll be the last really big scrimmage before we get ready to play Syracuse. I do think from everything I'm hearing, I'm feeling more like we're going to play right now than ever before. They're talking about game times with TV. They're talking about, like the officials said yesterday, they've already got the assignments for their first 4 ball games. Seeing the NC State game being moved is a positive that people are still trying to make this craziness work out so we can play. So I do think for our players and our coaches, this is really the first time everybody feels like that we're getting this close to playing and this is really going to happen. So they're talking about testing 3 times a week. The tests are not very much fun, but that's something that I think will be decided here soon by the medical group from the ACC. And I think from what I hear, that would be testing on Monday, testing on Wednesday, and then an outside group testing you on Friday, but before the ball game. So if I could answer any questions, please hit me with them. Okay.
Just a reminder, if you have a question, please use the raise your hand function and we'll try to get to every one of you. Our first person is Andy Staples. If you will unmute yourself, Andy, and ask away.
Yeah, Coach, I'm curious how much easier, I know none of this is easy, but having Sam established as a starting quarterback and not having to go through a competition to try to figure out who's going to lead your offense, how much does that help given all the other things you have to deal with right now?
Andy, I think that really helps us. We only lost 1 starter on offense, and that's Charlie Heck, the left tackle who's playing for the Texans. So we've got a lot of continuity back on offense, and our play caller is the same. Our offense is technically the same. And we only changed out the tight end coach. Tim Brewster did a great job for us, but he went to Florida. And then we were able to hire John Lilly, who came from the Cleveland Browns, and John's just stepped right in and done a tremendous job. So the biggest thing about the offensive guys, we're trying to establish depth, and there's a lot of young guys out there. Back, but we didn't have a lot of backups. We had to play guys too much last year, and it's going to be hot when we start in 2.5 weeks. So depth is a key, and right now we've got 6 offensive linemen that we think are ready to go, and that's just not enough. We'd love to have 8. You want 10, but you'd love to have 8, and that's what we're working on right now is trying to get a couple of more offensive linemen. Everywhere else we think we've got enough depth and we'll be fine, but the offensive line is still a question mark.
Is that easier to figure out depth when you kind of know what the personality of the offense is going to be, and you can figure out where people fit?
It is. We weirdly enough, without a spring practice, you had more meeting time, and then this summer the NCAA did a good thing in my estimation and let the coaches and kids have a lot of walkthroughs. So everybody should know what to do. Our offense hasn't changed much, and the continuity should be really, really good with the ones that have played the most. It's the other guys that still have to learn what to do. And Andy, you played this crazy stuff. We had a long discussion yesterday. It's harder for the offense because you don't allow offensive linemen to cut, and in the games they're going to cut. So there's some plays that look really bad simply because. I would have cut him. I said, well, you can't. We play too. And so we have that argument every year, and this year is no different.
Okay, we're going to move over to Brian Keys. Brian, go ahead.
Hey, Mac. I just wanted to ask whether or not throughout this entire lead up, whether you've had difficulties with enforcing mask wearing among players, whether or not guys have ever been resistant to wearing them all the time.
Brian, I would say that the answer would be yes, that we've been persistent about it, and nobody really likes wearing them. I mean, I've tried so many, and I keep looking for that perfect mask where I can breathe, and I can't find it. So I just change them up every day, I think. But the guys have been really good, and the coaches have been really good. And when somebody's not got a mask on, we've asked them to police themselves from inside. Obviously, when they're in the dorms or they're in their apartments or their houses, they're away from us. And we have to encourage them to do it. We can't be there with them. And the other thing that's so hard, Brian, if you're a young person that's had a positive, they're saying that you can't get the virus again for a while. They're telling us 90 days. And you're not contagious to give it to somebody else. So technically, they wouldn't have to wear a mask. But again, we're making everybody wear a mask because not everybody knows who's been positive and who's not. So I think our guys have been incredibly good during this awful time. It's not the social experience that they wanted when they first went to college. It's not the easy. Football's hard enough when you first get here, or guys get back and they've been off for 6 months. So I'm really, really impressed with the coaches and the players. And if I walk down the hall, I've got my mask on. You all didn't see it. Another one I tried. I had this in my hand. I had it on my face when I came in here, and Jeremy has to get away from me, and then we can put it on. So we're really, really watching our guys, and we went back on the video for Tuesday's scrimmage and to see who was spread out and how far they were and who had their mask on. And a couple of times during the scrimmage, I have a mic on during the scrimmage, and I said, hey, get your mask up. Come on, man. This is what we're doing. So we can't get so into the football that we forget that we need to go by all the guidelines.
Has anyone had to face discipline at all this season, or any, I guess, serious talking to or anything like that for not complying?
No, they've been really good. I've talked to them so much about it that I'm sure they're sick and tired of hearing me talk about it. In fact, one of the coaches said one day in a meeting, are we ever going to talk more football and less COVID? That if we don't make sure that we control COVID, we can't have football. So you all wake up and let's do this right. So our guys are really trying hard. And you know, they read what's written every day. They see what's on the news every day. And they know that they control whether we play or not. And if enough of them do not do what's right and get sick, then we probably wouldn't get to play. So we've told them it's on you. You want to play. If you want to play badly enough, you go by the rules.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
We will go over to Luke DeCock. Luke, go ahead.
Mack, you talked about some of the accommodations that you've had to make in terms of dealing with the unexpected. You know, we've already seen the rescheduling, as you mentioned. What kind of contingency plans have you put in place for the schedule moving, or if you lose certain number of players, and how much of that can you even plan in advance? And how weird do you expect some of this season to be when you talked about telling your players to look at the empty stands?
Yeah. Luke, what we've said is the only certainty about this year is the uncertainty. Nobody knows. I mean, we don't know anything. We could change a game possibly on Sunday. And I've told the coaches, don't gripe about not having a game plan ready, because they're creatures of habit. They'd have 6 months to have those game plans ready, and now they've got 6 days. So I told them we can either take what we've got and everybody else is dealing with it as well and play, or we can whine about it and not play well, or we cannot play. For the option we have, and we all want to play. So what we've tried to do is the number one thing is depth, because you do not know if someone gets sick on Friday morning, after that Friday afternoon, after they test Friday morning, and you're getting on a plane at 3 o'clock that afternoon and you're told 3 guys can't go, you better be ready for it. Don't gripe about it. And so we're cross-training a lot. We're playing a lot of different guys together. We're not trying to have a first team right now. We're trying to have guys that can play, and then we'll look at the numbers. The conditioning could be different because they've been in and out and distracted, and you know they've tried, but still some probably weren't sure we were going to play. So now that we're getting closer, they're saying, "Oh, that's a very good shape." But as far as cancellations and what might happen if somebody can't play, that's really up to Bubba. He and Kevin Gustowitz would make those decisions. They've looked at why would you cancel a game? What numbers would you have to have? How few players can you still play in a game and play safely with? And I've always felt like that should be a doctor's decision. It's not my place to decide. If he asks my opinion, I can give him. But medically, if he thinks we're not safe, then we wouldn't play. But that's what we're trying to do. We're probably even practicing some guys that we normally wouldn't practice just because we've got to have a lot of people available.
Okay, next up is Deanna King.
Hey, Coach.
Hey, Dana.
A couple of questions. Some rankings come out. You guys are in the top 20. What's the morale among the team being considered one of the top teams in the country going in the season?
Dina, we've been bragged on a lot since last year. And I told the guys the other day when it came out, we showed them and said that preseason rankings mean absolutely nothing. Good for you. You're getting some attention. But now you've got to play up to it. And we've had a year where we won 3. We've had a year where we won 2. And then a year where we won 7. And we've gotten a lot of credit. So we've got to go back to work. And we've got to make sure that we've earned this credit. And very honestly, the credit that was given was about the way that last year's team started well, dropped back off, and finished strong. It's not about this year's team. So we're reestablishing our leaders. We're wanting them to be confident, but we want them to be realistic. And said that when we kick it off against Syracuse, nobody's going to care where you're rated or not. And those will be the first eyes that are on you for this year. And then people will start making a determination of how good you are or not.
In your scrimmage, how did some of your youngsters look, especially wide receivers Josh Downs and Stephen Gosdale?
Josh Downs is really good. He's going to play, and he's going to play a lot. Stevens had a sore knee, but he caught 2 or 3 balls yesterday and did a good job. He's going to be a really good player. And THI Kraft will end up being a really good player for us, too. But Josh will play in the opening game, and he'll probably play a lot. He's really a good player.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's move over to Andrew Jones. Andrew, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, staying on the scrimmage, Awesome Richards. I know that you kind of slated him as a starter left tackle. How has he looked so far since we talked to you last time about a week ago in camp, and how did he do in the scrimmage?
Awesome's doing a good job, Andrew. He's very smart. He's 320 pounds now when he was, I think, less than 300 last fall. The off season and the pandemic and changed his body. So he worked really, really hard without us. So I'm really proud of him. He has no experience at left tackle, so it's going to be new for him. He's really working hard on his splits and making sure that he steps properly. And again, it's a disadvantage for some of the offensive linemen that can't cut, because the first time they will cut a defensive player will be in a ball game. So that's always new and unique and tougher for them. But he's doing a good job. The guy that's doing the best in the offensive line right now is Josh Azudu. We call him Easy. Easy is the starting left guard, the backup right guard, and the backup right tackle, and really the backup left tackle. So he's playing everywhere because Ed Montelis has done a good job. And when Ed steps in at left guard, that lets Easy go rest somebody at all of the other places. But we've got to find a backup center. We're still looking at backups across the board, and we got some guys banged up and some guys that haven't done as well yet. But our total key right now would be trying to find depth in the offensive line.
There was some discussion early first 10 days or so of camp about Ty Murray and Brian Anderson. Has Brian separated himself considerably in that race? And how has Ty done?
Ty got banged up and he hadn't practiced. We missed the 4 days because of the campus issues, but he missed maybe 2 days before that. So we're hoping that he'll get back soon, but he's been limited in practice.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew.
Next up is JB Ricks.
Hey, Coach, how you doing? Thank you for taking out the time.
Great, JB.
You said in your opening statement that this is basically the most optimistic that you felt that we are going to have a college football season. I've just seen the same sentiment from Wake Forest head coach Dave Clawson saying basically what you just said, that you guys feel like this is really going down. Are we at the point now where there's no turning back? Like, we need to go ahead and have this season since we're only 2.5 weeks away now?
JB, I have just as much to do with that as you do. So they will tell us whether we play or not. I do really like what the presidents and chancellors have done in the ACC. They have said we're moving forward and we're going to play basically as long as it's safe. And I've told our players and coaches that if any time they come back to us and tell us it's not safe, then we wouldn't want to play. So, but as far as I can tell, moving forward right now, we're planning on playing. I don't think anything's 100% JB this year. 2020 is the year that everything that's 100% changes in about an hour and a half. So, but I do think that right now everybody is feeling comfortable, the most comfortable we felt that we will have a football season this fall.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Thank you, JB.
All right, let's move over to Andrea Adelson.
Hey, Mac, thanks for doing this. One position where you do have depth is at receiver, but specifically for your 3 starters coming back, what's your expectation level for them considering what they did last year and what Sam coming back to?
Andrea, when we started the year, they were talented and inconsistent. So we were dropping some balls, and we had a freshman quarterback, and I thought Lonnie Galloway did one of the best jobs coaching last year with the wide receivers, because at the end of the year, Bo, Diami, and Daz were all playing at a very high level. And we've got to get them back to that. One of the things that you miss at times like this is quarterbacks and wide receivers just throwing the ball time after time after time and timing. And we didn't look as good and consistent yesterday as I wanted. So, and I think the linebackers and secondary right now may be the strength of our team, which is different than it was this time last year. So we've got great competition from those defensive backs and our wide receivers. So it's really good for us, and we're being challenged at a very high level offensively. So they're going to be really good, but we've got to get our consistency back. And again, with the heat, early season, we didn't get to substitute much last year as a team. That's a real priority for us this year. So getting Emery Simmons ready and Shoffrey Brown ready and Toe Groves, and we're trying to get as many people ready to play so we don't have anyone out on the field that's just worn out. And last year we had that some.
Okay, let's go over to CL Brown. CL, unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
All right, Coach. You mentioned the inconsistencies offensively in the scrimmage. How much of that is a byproduct of you guys basically having the start and stop, missing, having all the athletic activities suspended for those days? And going forward, do you factor that in as well in terms of as much as you can factor it in, that you might have another time where you're going to have to shut everything down for a day or two?
Yeah, CL, it's a good question, and we've already had 13 practices because we started earlier than we normally would have, simply because they moved our game back to the 12th instead of the first Friday in September. So we feel like we've gotten enough practice. The distractions are going to be there this year, and that's the way it's been in our lives since spring break, since the middle of March. So we've told our guys absolutely no excuses. You just gotta handle it, and you gotta play through it. And this is going to be a great opportunity to handle tough things in your life and learn how to lead. And I've told our coaches when they gripe, well, we need to be practicing. Yeah, well, everybody else does too. So everybody is having their distractions. The way we handle the distractions, the way we handle the differences than our norm and move forward as a team and improve will really determine what kind of year we have. The better we handle things, the more games we're going to win. And that's what we've got to do, is step up and show great leadership as coaches, so the players don't feel like that they've got an excuse that, well, we're not quite as good now because we missed 3 days or 4 days, or they're real, they're facts, but they're excuses, and we can't use them. So we're working really, really hard just to move forward.
And you also mentioned not necessarily defining a first team right now. So what buttons do you press to keep guys motivated in terms of, because usually that's kind of the carrot, that I want to get a starting spot or I want to get this playing time. So how are you using that to motivate them?
When I was at Texas, Coach Royal, who won 3 national championships there, and the stadium's named after him, told me never name your teams or call your teams 1s, 2s, and 3s. Because if you constantly call a guy 2, he feels like a 2 and plays like a 2. If you constantly call a guy 3, then he feels like that you don't care about him. So at that time, we started naming the groups by color. So here, the group that walks out the first are the blue team. The group that walks out the second is the white team. And the group that right now would be the furthest away from playing is the gray team. But they know they're not 3s. Because we're not, hey, you 3s, come on. So that's really, really important to us. And then what we've done is we're saying, okay, we want to get 17 guys on defense on the blue team. And that's all determined, CL, by how many plays you get to play. So Coach Guthridge taught me that he and Coach Smith, I said, what's one of the key things that you all do in basketball to win here? And he said, we do a great job with playing time. And when that guy that's on the bench can be a more productive player than the one that's in the game, because the one that's in the game's tired, then you put him in for so many minutes. and each of their players on the bench had to earn playing minutes. So Coach Smith would put him in for 2 minutes, and then the guy who was out there first would be ready to go back in. And that's what we've done with our program since talking to Coach Royal and talking to Coach Smith. We've tried to make sure that every day in practice, we have to create an edge, and that edge is, if you want to play, earn your playing time. We sat in here today and with a staff meeting this morning, I asked our coaches, if we played today, I want to know how many plays you would expect each of your players to play. How many can Josh Azudu play without getting tired and dropping off till we have to put somebody in his place? How many can Garrett Walston play at tight end and Kamari Morales would be able to step in? So if Kamari, can he play 10? Can he play 15? Where fresh, he's more productive than a tired Garrett Walston at 60. And that's the way we motivate our players. The bench motivates players better than anything. And if you want to play, earn your right to play in practice, and then you have to earn the number of plays that you're going to play, and that'll be determined by your coach.
Okay, next up is Jamie Munden. Jamie, go ahead.
Hi there. So you talked about the fact that you're super excited about the season happening. You're feeling super confident at this point. The last time we got an update in terms of the number of COVID cases within the football program was back in July. A lot has happened since then. What is the latest update that you can provide now?
Jamie, we're having a test every Monday, and we don't get into numbers normally, but we did not have a positive test again on Monday. So I'm really, really proud of these guys. They have really done a great job of taking this serious. We had our spike back in the middle of July, and since that time, these guys have done an incredible job, and I am so proud of them. And we continue to tell them, don't get relaxed, because the virus is still out there and it's still really bad and you can catch it so quickly. So let's don't get complacent just because we're doing a really good job of this. But I'm so proud of our coaches and our staff, and they just continue to do a great job.
So as of Monday, I think the 24th, there wasn't a single positive COVID-19 case within the UNC football program.
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Greg Barnes, you're up next.
All right, had to unmute there, Mac. Just curious, can you speak to any highlights or standouts among your defensive front seven in the scrimmage?
I'm still really excited, Greg, about Ray Vohasek. He and Tamari Fox, Taman Fox, and Hopper. Those guys, excuse me, those guys are doing the best job because they've all played. They're experienced now. Tyrone got hurt, so he hadn't played as much as you'd like for a while, but he's playing at a high level. And the two Fox brothers they have such a good motor. And we felt like we played Taman too much last year, and got him beaten down some during the season, along with Strobridge and Crawford, and we just couldn't substitute. So our job now is to see how many plays a Chris Collins and a Kamen Rucker, a Des Evans can play. How many plays we're getting back to where Jalil Taylor, who had the shoulder operation in the spring, is starting to play more. So he'd be in that regular rotation. And Kevin Hester's done some good things. So all those guys right now are playing at a pretty high level, and we just rotated them Tuesday. We didn't worry about who was out there first, or we just said, go play. And then I'd look up, and Eugene Asante's playing really well. So he and Kadri Jackson would be out there with the older blue team, and they'd be right in the middle of it, just playing. So our coaches are doing a good job of looking at a lot of different combinations and not just playing one group. So I feel like in a game now, we're going to see with the more experienced defensive line, you may very well see Eugene Asante and Kadri Jackson out there with them some, because we're trying to get that mentality, and that's really important for us.
And you spoke about a couple weeks ago about the need to find a third running back. Has anybody kind of stuck their head up there?
No, the young backs are talented, and you've got Josh Henderson, you've got British Brooks who have experience, and they know how to block, and they know how to pick up blitzes. And Jay brings a lot of different people every day in practice. The biggest adjustment for young backs is learning how to pick up the blitz. So we've still got to work some on their pass protection before we could put them in the games. But both young backs are talented, and we like what we see.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go over to Ross Martin.
Hey, Mac, along those same lines, you mentioned linebacker and cornerbacks, or linebackers and defensive backs standing out. What about the secondary is really standing out to you? Certain players that are making noise, or certain young guys that are stepping up?
Ross can play everywhere, and that's what we were talking about earlier with Luke. The cross training, we could put him at corner today, nickel, or either safety, and he's fine. He's got it. He's very confident. When you start looking at the corners, I'm really proud of what they're doing and who they are. Storm Duck is playing very well. He had a great scrimmage yesterday. Kyler McMichael in his first scrimmage stepped up. Patrice Renee had his best day, because we forget Patrice isn't only coming off of a knee operation, but he missed spring. And then he had to miss a lot of rehab time simply because we couldn't come over here, or just the nature of all the things that have happened to us since the middle of March. So he did a good job. DeAndre Hollins is much improved from last year, and then you've got Obi and you've got Tony Grimes. So you've really got 6 corners. I'm sitting in the staff room here. You've got 6 corners that we think can play, and that's we're at Duke last year, where we have to put a nickel in DeAndre Hollins at corner because we've got 1 corner on the whole team that is healthy and can play. So we're at a much better spot than we were. And then you've got guys like Don Chapman has grown up and looks good. You've got Cam Kelly that looks good. You've got Miles Wook, and the only thing that's been wrong with Miles, it's been tough for him to stay healthy. So we're trying to keep him healthy and let him work some, but not overwork him in practice. And then Geo Biggers is playing a lot better. Roseman Sinclair, Richardson. We just got more depth. And then you've got Jaquarius Conley that's playing nickel on top of that as a freshman. So we're in such a different place right now in the secondary and at linebacker than we were this time last year. And I do think those 2 places right now have suddenly become the strength of our team.
Any updates on the kicking situation and any new returners that are backing up Michael Carter and Daz, I guess?
Yeah, Josh Downs would be in there along with Toe Groves, but Josh has got great speed and quickness. So I feel like that's a position that he may very well jump into some this year. As far as the kickers and punters, we've shown great ability. We haven't been as consistent across the board in that area as I want us to be.
So that's still ongoing competition?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Sammy Batten. Sammy, go ahead.
Yeah, Matt goes off topic again, but Natron Means has been hired down here at the coaching staff at Fayetteville State. I was just wondering, as a player, did he exhibit any characteristics that made you think he might make a good coach someday?
Absolutely. Nate's tough. He's a competitor. I remember one spring, Sammy, we were so bad offensively our first 2 years here that was our athletics director, and we ran the sweep with him about 35 times, I think, in the spring game. And I'm sure, John, the fans weren't very happy, but we were trying to get good at something. And I remember John coming in, and he suddenly said, I guess you think the sweep's going to be a good play. And I said, it needs to be. We got to figure out something that we can do. And he's tough. And A lot of Kenny Browning and Daryl Moody have been over to watch him when he was at Winston-Salem State. And all of them came to me when we got here and we're talking about how great a coach he is and how personable he is with the players. And he's a great teacher. So I'm very, very proud of him. And I actually text back and forth with him the other day, but we have a lot of communication with their staff and with him. And can't wait to one of these days get to watch him coach.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Gregory Hall. Gregory, go ahead.
Hey, Mac, you mentioned obviously the offense being inconsistent, but some big plays happened. I was just curious what some of those big plays were and what they looked like.
Greg, we had a long run by Javante. He looks so good right now. He's in great shape, and he's always big and tough, and they do not like tackling him on those flares and draws. And but he bounced the ball outside and showed great speed and went for a long way. Toe Groves caught a touchdown pass off of a little fake screen, and Sam did a good job of getting it to him in the end zone. And again, it's hard to say that it was blue team against blue team because we interchanged the substitution so much. You'd have to go back and see who's in the game at that time. But that's who we're trying to become. Sam had a couple of scrambles. It's obvious that he's lost some weight, and he moved really well with his feet yesterday in the scrimmage. So there are a lot of great plays like that came up. So I don't want to act like we didn't make a first down. It wasn't that way at all. The offense was just more inconsistent than I would like.
And then in the backup quarterback competition, how is Jace looking and some of the younger guys?
Both are doing really well. It's Jace and Jacoby are both competing hard. Right now, Jefferson Boaz would be redshirted, and that's what we talked to him about when he came in, unless there are some injuries. But we feel like that competition's really, really good at backup quarterback. We all forget without spring practice, Jace has been hurt both falls. He hadn't played a lot of football. So he gets better every day, but we also are very excited about what we see out of Jacoby Criswell. And they alternated with the white and the gray team throughout the day yesterday. Sam took all the snaps with the blue team.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to Luke Buxton.
Hey, Coach. Thinking about to this time last year, 5 days out from South Carolina. You guys are 2-9. A lot of question marks. Freshman QB to now coaching this team, top 20 team. Chaz, Sam, Mike, you've gotten some national recognition. What's been the difference of kind of the mood, the environment of the team, and also for you, what's the difference in coaching teams that have no expectations and have a lot to prove to now have a lot of expectations and also have a lot to prove?
Luke, it's a great question, number one, but one of the great things about coaching is that every team is different. All the players are different. I worked for a guy at Southern Miss named Bobby Collins that coached here for Coach Dooley, and he always said there's a key to each kid, and there is. And you can't treat everybody the same, so you've got to treat teams differently, and you've got to treat kids differently. This time last year, I didn't think that we had great communications with our players. I didn't feel it, and that's why we started telling our stories, and that's where that crazy dancing came in, and because we needed to break open a line of communication. And we needed to get them to talk to us because they just wouldn't talk. And I don't know that they didn't trust us or what, but we just weren't there. And even going to South Carolina, they sat on the bus and they never spoke. And I'm used to, it's Friday. I'm used to guys cutting up and laughing and being excited about the game. And I called Sally from the bus and she said, that's the quietest bus I've ever heard on a phone. I said, it is, we weren't speaking. So, but they loosened up with us and they started talking to us. This team is a lot more fun right now than last year's team because our communication lines are so open that whether it's COVID, whether it's the social justice issues that are out there, we've discussed everything. And I feel so great that if there's something that the players would want to bring to me, they're going to bring it to me right now. I wasn't at that place last year. they're a lot more confident right now than they were last year. I don't think anybody thought we were going to beat South Carolina. I sure wasn't sure. Got a freshman quarterback and 2 linebackers that have never played in a college game at linebacker, and you're playing a good team. So we jumped out of the gates faster than I thought, and then we didn't handle it very well and didn't play as well against Wake Forest and Appalachian. And then we started playing better again and got to be a really good team at the end of the year. So what we've got to do is get that momentum back that we had at the end of the year and earn the right again to say we're a good team instead of walking around acting like we are. And that's what we're in the process of right now. There's our players have chosen a patch that Jeremy will release for you at some point that they want to wear on their jerseys, because the NCAA is allowing that to happen this year, and I'm really proud of the process they went through. Also, the NCAA has allowed them to wear a different name on the back if they want to. Our players are looking at the name that they would like. If they want to change, they can wear their family name if they want to. They can honor someone they've lost in their family if they want to, or they could wear something that signifies their thoughts and their position on social justice. So we've approved all of those, and they did a great job of thinking about what they would do. And now they've just got to make sure that when we get them in, because of COVID, all the ordering stuff is different too, then they will pick the game that they're going to wear them. But I do think, Luke, more than anything else, this team has been fun. They've been open. And at a time where there's so much inconsistency and they're on a roller coaster of, are we going to play? Are we not going to play? Are we coming back to school? When are we coming back to school? I remember them telling them that you won't be back to school till at least the summer. And they were like, oh man, you're kidding. And here we are still at a tough spot. So I really like the resilience of this team. I like their trust. I like that they're vocal with us and that we've got some really good leaders. So we're at a much better place right now than we were last year. With that becomes a lot higher expectations from me and from us. And I know our fan base and the media has higher expectations. We do too. We need to step up and play great. We don't need to be just good.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, Luke.
All right, we're going to go back over to Brian Keys. Brian, go ahead.
Hey, Mac. So about a week ago, the quarterback at Georgia State announced that he wouldn't be able to participate in the season because of the heart condition he developed. I just wanted to ask if that coming out made any of the players, I guess, scared, if that was something you had talked about. To my knowledge, that was the first college football player that publicly announced they had developed this heart condition that had been talked about before.
Brian, we've had our doctors and our trainers talk to our players at length, and we have one of the best screening processes for their heart if they have a positive, and will not let anybody return to practice until they're totally cleared. Again, I think our players trust our doctors, and they trust the information that they're getting from our doctors, and they're excited about playing and moving forward. Yesterday's scrimmage, Brian, you wouldn't have noticed any difference on the field. They just played. Obviously, the officials and my mask, their mask, and on the sideline, there's differences. On the field, they're just playing, and they're excited about playing. So you would have to ask them, obviously, because there's 120 of them. But we have told them every day, if you don't feel comfortable, or if you don't want to play this year for any reason, then you can stay and still keep your scholarship. So I would think if any were nervous about playing, they would come and ask us. We've talked to them about if you need to, go talk to the doctors. Don't talk to us, and ask the doctors about it. So we don't want you thinking that we might not play you if you acted like you might not want to play. So Dwight Hoyer has been a great resource for us because he runs our wellness program, and he's a longtime NFL player, and they know him, so they can go to him. So I really don't think right now that that's an issue for us.
Mm-hmm. And then you've had 4 players opt out so far. Have you gotten any indication from anyone else that they might be taking that path?
Yes, Billy Ross has decided that he's not going to play this year, and he'll graduate, and then he's going to transfer.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Art
I'm sorry.
Chansky, go ahead.
Mark, just a second.
Yes, sir.
Brian, we haven't announced that till today, is this new eligibility rule that the NCAA put out last week has made all of us stop and try to figure it out. So the way we understand it, and I think they're having a question and answer period today to give us more clarification, but the way we understand the new rule, and we wanted to make sure that all of the players understand what we know, is that every player will get another year. So there is no red shirting, and every player on your team, it's like this year doesn't count. It's very unique and different. So anyone who wants to transfer, we're trying to make sure that we get a clarification of exactly what's going to happen so they can do what's best for them moving forward.
Okay. Thank you.
Billy has more information. We'll get that to you, but I think he feels like he'll have more information today. And
Okay.
that's Billy High. I'm sorry, he's our recruiting coordinator that works with compliance. So if we do have a different interpretation, Jeremy can get it to you. But as far as we know right now, it's like this year just doesn't count. They all can, like next year, you don't have to stay within the 95. All your seniors can come back if they want to. And you can still sign the number of players that you were eligible to sign this year. So it'll be the most unique time in roster management that there's ever been, because we're all trying to figure out what it means.
Great.
Thanks,
All right, Coach. We will move over to Art Chansky. Art, go ahead.
Hey, Mac.
Hey, Art.
You know they're going to ask you to teach a class on this one spring semester, don't you?
I don't know that I can figure all that out, Art.
Yeah. Look, following up on Jamie's question, has anybody told you what happens now that you're scrimmaging if you get a single positive? You know, the CDC rules are that you got to go find everybody that you've been close to, and everybody's got to quarantine for a certain period of time. Has anybody told you what exactly would happen if now one of your players, after starting to scrimmage, turns positive, tests positive?
I haven't asked Art, but the CDC guidelines are very clear, and that's that you need to wear a mask and you need to social distance. And I feel like they feel like on the field with your helmet on, and we've got shields, that you do not have a contact tracing issue. If somebody does have a positive, as long as you're doing that. Now, if you're in a car without a mask, if you're sitting on the couch with them without a mask, and you're within 6 feet, then they honestly ask the players exactly who they've been around and where they've been with them and how close have they been to them without their mask. And then the player has to be honest, the way I understand it. And that's why I don't want to know who's been positive. I don't want to know who's been out or who got it first or where they've been, because we made a conscious decision early that if I knew if somebody went someplace they were not supposed to be, and then they contacted the virus and brought it back to the team, I would be mad at them. And then they wouldn't be as likely to be honest with the doctors. It's more important right now that they're honest and we're safe than it is that I know who might have messed up.
So one player tests positive, and we know what to do with him. And then when the next testing round comes up, if another player tests positive that might have been playing on the same unit with him in a mosh pit, they haven't told you that far down the road what would happen at that point. You know where I'm getting at here is to try to, because no one knows until you start playing football, you know, how it affects these people from two teams who are going to be blocking and tackling.
Yeah, Art, we've been practicing. Jeremy, isn't it 13? We've had 13 practices, so we've been playing football. And there was a study that was made by a doctor, and I won't even say what team it was, that was shown to us that players aren't usually around each other very much during a ball game. And they say you're even safe if you've got a mask and don't stand next to somebody for more than 15 minutes at a time. Because being indoors, standing next to somebody for a long period of time, being around somebody that's really loud, screaming or singing, being in a bar, being in restaurants that are overcrowded without masks, those are things that really put you at high risk. But if you think about it, probably the longest time anybody will stand next to each other during a ball game would be the offensive lineman and the when the linemen are looking back to get the next play. And they're not really close to each other. So you start looking at each position and how close they'll be for how long as they wear their mask, as long as they have their shields, we think that they're going to be okay. And that's why we feel like we can play. And nobody knew until we started practice. I think that's why people are more confident that this is going to work moving forward.
Yeah, and then they're never staying, unless they're standing on the sideline and they have masks. They're never, when you're on the field, you're never staying that close to somebody for 15 consecutive minutes. So the clock starts to run all over again.
Yes, and our practices now we don't have any drills that are more than 10 minutes. We move people in and out all the time. So we're really taking a lot of precaution to make sure that we're doing exactly what we're supposed to do. Are some kids going to stand next to each other too close on the sideline? Probably, but they're going to have a mask. They'll have their hand. We're going to have guys on the sideline walking up and down and say, spread out, spread out. And they allowed us now to go from 15-yard line to 15-yard line with the coach's box. So it's extended. So we're going to have more space. And we're going to have to really do a great job. We told our grade team yesterday, stay out of the blue. And the guys that are playing more can stay in the blue. But let's make sure. And we moved our chairs way back. So as the coaches were talking to the players coming off the field, they weren't near the other players. So we're really looking hard at making sure that no one is close to somebody else for 15 minutes or more.
Do you have an opinion on why the Big Ten and the Pac-12 might have pulled the plug so early without, my feeling is that you have to play to get the data to find out if you can play.
Yeah, I don't have any idea. I haven't talked to anybody from either conference, and really, Art, these are questions that doctors should be answering for you. I'm giving you answers I've gotten from them. So
Dr. Brown.
Yeah, I'm sure.
We're scheduling a Zoom with Mario, so appreciate it. Okay.
Great. He's done a great job, so he'll be able to give you all that information.
All right, let's move over to Jacob Turner. Jacob, go ahead, please.
Hey, Matt, quick question about Cam Kelly. We talked to him about a week and a half ago, and he talked a lot about waiting until the last minute to get the NCAA waiver, to starting against Clemson and getting hurt and being out for the rest of the year. From your perspective, how have you seen him deal with all that adversity and over the last year or so?
He has been amazing, Jacob. Cam has been tough. He goes through the transfer, he gets the waiver, we rush him out there to play, and then he starts and he's doing great as a true freshman with all the things that he's had to complicate his first year in college, and then ruins his knee. And he ruins his knee after he had played late enough in the season, enough games that he couldn't get his year back. So this is one of the great things about this new eligibility rule. He will get his year back. That he wouldn't have before. And then again, he can't go through spring practice, but we don't have it. He has to go home, so he can't stay here in rehab a lot of the spring. So you got to give him and the other, Patrice Renee, the guys that had to do rehab to get ready to play, they had to have a lot of discipline and find places at home that they could work. And he looks really good. I think, again, he and Patrice will look better every day moving forward when they get more confidence in their knee. And that'll be something that I had a bunch of knee operations. So emotionally and mentally, you've got to be able to have confidence that when you plant that knee or you hit somebody, it's not going to give out on you. And we have not seen any indication of he or Patrice worried about the plant. So I think he's in great shape moving forward.
Thanks, Mac.
Thanks, Jacob.
Well, that's the last question we've got for you, Coach. We appreciate your time today. And thanks, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you all. Be safe, and we'll see you soon.